Light a rose, I'm home again, Rose, to get the sun back in the sky. Light a rose, I'm home again.
The family roots go way back. My father, Francis Ellsworth Baker, was born in 1906 and died in 1978. He was a descendant, through his mother, of Captain John Underhill, one of the first settlers in America. His mother, my grandmother, was Lily Alice Godfrey. She was born in 1876 and died a young woman in 1924. This portrait shows her at age 16. My father was only 17 years old and a senior at Exeter Academy when Lily died. Lily and her mother, Mary Alice Macaulay Godfrey, lived at 41 Commonwealth Avenue in the Chestnut Hill district of Boston. We derive our relationship to the Underhills through William Macaulay, who was Mary Alice's father, and is pictured here at 21 years of age. He married Mary Sutton Underhill in 1848. Mary and William had 3 children, Mary Alice, Lily Evelyn, and Horace. Mary Alice, who was my great-grandmother, was born in 1850 and married John A. Godfrey, who was pictured here as a colonel in the U.S. Army. Accordingly, our relationship to the famous Captain John Underhill is through the maternal side. For the rest of the Macaulay family, Lily married into the Willis family, Horace married into the Van Rensselaers. There is much written about these families in the Underhill genealogy volumes. Great-grandfather, Colonel John A. Godfrey, was born in 1832 and had a distinguished career as an officer in the U.S. Army, rising in rank to colonel, Attorney General of California during the Civil War, and later as ambassador to Mexico. He was a practicing lawyer in New York City. His relationship with Mary Alice was very loving and elegant. I have a clipping from the Evening Telegram, dated February 24, 1871, describing Mary's lovely black silk train worn at a reception with Colonel John A. Godfrey. Mary was 21 years old at the time. John wrote lovely poems and had them copied in calligraphy and published in leather books. One was Serenade to Alice, Sleep, Dearest Sleep. Twinkling stars, like gems, are beaming. John gave long speeches and considered himself to be an orator at the time. He campaigned for General George McClellan, the Democratic candidate running against Abraham Lincoln in 1864. In his speech, he advocated retaining the Union, although the Democratic Party platform wanted to terminate the war and cut the Confederacy free. John Godfrey was primarily concerned about the federal assumption of power, which he felt was contrary to the Constitution, and that's why he was campaigning for the Democrats. Interestingly enough, that's a similar issue to the George W. Bush administration of 2007. Subsequently, as a lawyer, John Godfrey, with offices at 240 Broadway in New York City, handled many Manhattan iconic property transactions. John died in 1874. Mary Alice died in 1917. She and John had 2 children, a daughter, Lily Alice, my grandmother, and a son, Macaulay Sutton Underhill Godfrey. Lily's brother, Macaulay, married Lydia Willis, and they had a large family, 4 boys and 2 girls. According to the Underhill genealogy, Lydia's father, Sir Charles Frederick Willis, was a founder of the United Fruit Company and the International Railway of Central America. After Dad's mother Lily died while he was in school, Lydia and Macaulay took care of him and considered him to be one of their own. I was to come to know two of the boys of that family well, Spencer and Cutler Godfrey. I knew the daughters less well, Consuelo and Esmeralda. Here is a picture of Cutler, a notable sailor and a resident of Newport, Rhode Island. Cutler is famous for sailing a small boat from Nantucket to Newport through the Great Hurricane Carol in 1954. He had his 13-year-old son, Peter, on board. Apparently, Cutler was a better sailor than a meteorologist. The Godfrey clan has always been a strong part of our family, and I count Cutler's son, Peter, as one of my best friends. Spencer Godfrey was definitely my father's best friend and was a frequent visitor to our house in the 30s and 40s. Many of these family members, along with many cousins, are buried at the old Quaker Meeting House on Route 120 in Purchase, New York. We know less about my paternal grandfather, the original Francis Ellsworth Baker. He was a lawyer, and he received his degree from the Chicago College of Law, Lake Forest University, in 1895. He specialized in utility regulation and reportedly established the Long Island Lighting Company in Long Island, New York. He married Lily in January 1900 in Hampton, Virginia, and honeymooned with Lily in the grand old style, La Belle Epoque, touring Europe. Here's a picture of the couple with a baby, who was my father, taken in 1907. I have U.S. Senate letters of introduction presenting the Bakers to the U.S. ambassador, Moscow, Russia, and in Prague, Austria. In those days, people traveled with letters of introduction since transatlantic telephone was very uncertain and regular mail could take months. Lily loved the violin and owned a valuable instrument similar to a Stradivarius. She was painted in 1887 in Italy with her favorite violin and then again traveling in Tokyo. There's a family story to the effect that F. Ellsworth Baker thought Lily Alice Godfrey was wealthy, and Lily thought that F. Ellsworth Baker was wealthy. As it turns out, they were both wrong. Pictured are Lily and Baker at Coney Island, and Lily was my father. In 1908, Baker left Lily Alice, and they were divorced in August 1912. According to newspaper accounts, Baker was in trouble with the police in 1910 for fraudulently selling bonds which were not his property. He was arrested and released on bail. We've not been able to locate the records of the trial or to find out the final disposition of the case. There appears to be no further information on Baker. Lily never remarried. The Godfreys are a strong and successful family. Cutler married several times, but in his marriage to Doris Stokes, he set about building a family, and they adopted two children, Peter and Consuelo, who was always called Cindy. Doris Stokes was born in 1914, daughter of Gillian C.B. Stokes and Edna Wallace. Peter graduated from Exeter and Yale, class of 1963, and Cambridge College, 1965. Peter was a competitive oarsman and competed in the Henley regattas. Later, Peter was to use a rowing term to name his sailboats. He called them Drive 10. He married Nancy Thompson in 1966, and they have two children, Thompson and Alexandra. Thompson was born in 1973, graduated from Kent School in 1991, and the University of Wisconsin in 1995. He received his MBA from Michigan State. Thompson married Margaret Wilson in 1992, and they now have 3 children, Wilson, Walker, and Beckett. Alexandra, who was born in 1971, graduated from Miss Porter's in 1989 and George Washington University in 1993. She married Stephen Walco in 2001, and they have 2 children, Nicole and Christopher. Cutler's son Peter was the New York 36 sailing champion at the New York Yacht Club for many years and is a very famous yachtsman. The Peter-Godfreys now live in Scottsdale, Arizona. Cutler's daughter Consuelo married David Dodge, and they have a daughter Jennifer and a grandchild Reagan. Family members shown in this photograph are Consuelo, Nancy, and Peter in 1967. Cutler used to talk about how elegant and gracious Mary Alice and Lily Alice were living and entertaining in Boston. Lily traveled in exalted circles, as shown in this note, presenting a Chinese dictionary from a senior Chinese naval officer. However, I think money may have been a problem in later years. My father once pointed to several large New York newspaper obituaries of a famous swindler, Steve Dutton, who the Herald Tribune reported stole $150,000 from Lily Alice in 1898. That money would be worth over $15 million today. Still, in the tradition of the time, despite being low on funds, Lily took her young son, my father, on an extended grand tour of Europe. They went over on the French line SS Paris to Le Havre on July 24, 1924, and they returned on the White Star Line RMS Homeric on October 1st, 1924. They booked all first-class cabins and lived in the Grand Old Manor. Dad was devoted to his mother, to whom he wrote frequent love letters. As we leave the Gilded Age, at the turn of the 20th century, we carry thoughts of a bygone era, and Lily and Mary holding on to a changing lifestyle for the benefit of themselves and for the benefit of a little boy who was my father, who they called Little Ellsworth.